didn't do stage names, because like Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, these are like fucking cool names, you know what I mean? And it's just like, when you get, and I was like, I don't know, is Ellefson cool? I don't know, that's not like a cool rock and roll name, I mean, I'm glad I kept it now, of course, but you know what I mean? It's like, Nikki Sixx, because that was what was going on the Sunset Strip, everybody had they had stage names,
like one syllable names.
Yeah, Mick Mars, Nikki Sixx. These are like total fucking rock star names, so we kept our names, and then the next topic was, we need a band name, and that's, I'll never forget Greg, because he kind of had this sly look. He's kind of looking, he goes, well, I think we should call the band Megadeth, and there was like this silence in the room, and then that's when Laura goes, whoa, dude, Megadeth, fuck, that's heavy. Because Megadeth was the word in the song No Survivors, right? The Arsenals of Megadeth can't be rid, they said. That was the line, right? And when we saw those lyrics, that's, I mean, it's fucking brilliant, right? That, what's a Megadeth? You don't even know what the word is, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so it stuck, and Greg forced the issue, and then I remember Dave, he didn't want to have the word death. He didn't like the name. He didn't like the word death. Like it was just too cliche for a metal band, right? So Greg was the one who suggested. He goes, well, "Why don't we drop the A? Megadeth, And then Dave liked it because it's 8 letters, it's numerology, it's the perfect 8, like the infinity, right? It's
Oh wow.
the 8.
So he's using mathematics for this whole thing
Yeah,
with the name.
yeah.
That's I never knew that. That's fire.
Yeah.
Fire.
Like the gematria stuff, right? We have,
yeah.
How many?
I never knew
that. Yeah. So there was a lot of thought into it. I mean, it didn't just, we were not a band that just jammed and then smoked pot.
You guys were very intricate with everything. Like, it was really cool. What about the artwork? Because I remember, weren't you guys really unhappy with that artwork, or was there back?
Yeah.
What was the deal?
Yeah. Well, and I've learned now too from my friend Mike Schnapp, who did radio promotion for Combat Records. I've just befriended him again. We've stayed in touch and stuff, but he's working on a movie, he's working on a book and stuff. So I was just with him in New Jersey for the Nick Menza film premiere, and he just told me the other day there were 2 masters, when you went in and mastered, you take that, like we would take the demo. So we did those couple of days up in Indigo Ranch. Then we moved down to a studio called Crystal Sound Labs down in Santa Monica and Gower, where we finished the rest of the recording, the solos. Chris did his solos and stuff there, and the rest of the singing, and then we mixed there. And then we went to go have it mastered, and I think we went to a place, I can't remember, I forgot where it was. Anyway, we went to, and so when you mastered, basically what you're doing is you're creating the lacquer that that becomes the thing by which you press and manufacture all the vinyl, right? And of course made cassettes from at that point too. But essentially you're creating, it's literally a turntable with a needle, and it's carving the master, vinyl template that you're going to then create
over and over, right?
Yeah, right. And then from which they literally press and manufacture all the vinyl. And so I remember, me and Dave going there. Chris may have been there with us as well, because Chris was an audiophile. He liked to be into the mixing, and he wanted to be there for as much of it as he could too. And so there's one master, and so when you master, you have to have your songs in order, because they basically that's where they cut. The mastering engineer also trims the fades and the stop of a song to the start of the new song, right? And there's a formula that they had for, like, you put 3 seconds in between songs. And I will say this: the mastering guys loved our records because they only had 8 songs on them, right? There was only, like, I think 28 or 32 minutes of material, right? So if it was 4 songs on side A, 4 songs on side B, because these what the mastering guy said, he goes, less songs means the grooves are wider, which means more bottom end, which of course win for me, of course. But so then we did that, and then when we sent that off to Combat, Steve Sinclair, who was kind of the point man A&R guy at the label, he went in and created his own master and changed the order. And I literally just learned this like a couple weeks ago, and then I got to thinking about it, and I'm going, you know what, because it's so funny. Like in Kings of Thrash, we're learning the record top to bottom, and in my mind, I always felt like there was a different order to the record, and the guys would be like, "No, this is what it is." I'm like, that can't be right. Because I never, I don't sit around and listen to Killing Is My Business, right? I
Yeah,
just don't.
you don't listen to your own work. A lot of people.
Yeah, and obviously it was 40 years ago we made it, right? So and so when Mike told me that, I'm like, I knew it. I fucking knew it because I knew there's no way we would have, as a band, put the songs in that order. So isn't that funny that there's literally these two masters, and who knows? Like he called it, there was the Dave master and then the Steve Sinclair master, and the Steve is the one that, because he worked at the label, he ran the label, his master won, right? So then you come to the artwork, same thing, right? They send us the finished version. They don't send us like, hey, here's a sample. Yeah, like any label now would say, email you a PDF. Hey, this is with a sketch of how it's coming along, and you go, yeah, and add a little more orange, or can we tweak the lyric? Just tweak the logo. There's none of that. They just fucking send you. So we go. We had a friend that because me and Dave didn't have like a mailbox, we didn't have a permanent address because we were pretty much homeless, just living with people, right? So I remember going over to her house, Sharon, and they shipped it to her, and so we go to her. I think they sent it to her or our post office, but I thought they sent it to her, and there it is. We're like, holy shit. That's not at all what we wanted. They changed the logo. So the version you see now on the Final Kill, and even the one that we reissued back in 2002, that remix, that is obviously it's got the current logo, but it's the skull and crossbones. That was what it was supposed to look like, because it was essentially, that was the description of the skull beneath the skin, and it was also the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, which is looking down the cross. So that was the whole description of it. Now, if you really want to see the original artwork, look on the Megadeth Anthology Greatest Hits album cover. Dave has a white shirt on. That's one of our shows. I think that was from Palo Alto. It was our first, I think it was our first round of shows we did up there with Kerry King in February of '84. And Dave only had his one guitar, his BC Rich, the Rich Bitch, right, that he had from Metallica. He only had that one guitar, and he broke a string, so he had to borrow. Kerry had two. He had the red Mockingbird, and then he also had I think he had a Warlock, a black Warlock. So Dave, Kerry must have been playing the Warlock, so Dave quickly grabbed Kerry's red Mockingbird. And so that picture on the front of Anthology is Dave with Kerry's Mockingbird. And that T-shirt, that is the original artwork that we sent them, right? That was
really?
That's the Megadeth logo. This kind of, sort of, how the sort of the logo spread out. And then those sickles that come down, and then the skull and crossbones, the sort of the origin story of what became Vic Rattlehead. So that's it. That's the original artwork on that T-shirt, and that would have been from 1994.
That's a trip, man. Yeah, I gotta say, I'm still blown away by what you told me about the labels doing the switcherooski last minute. And rearranging the order. That's just what labels do. Right? The A&Rs.
They did whatever the hell they wanted. They did whatever the hell they wanted, man. It's. I remember we played at the Ritz. I think it was Slayer, Megadeth, and the Bad Brains, and we played at the Ritz in New York. And Steve Sinclair was in the audience, and Dave, he was a little hammered, and he was fucking going off, yelling at Steve. He's sitting like right in front of him, and going off, bitching about Combat while Combat was in the audience, you know. And then I remember then they put in this brand new $20,000 video screen, and they lowered the screen like, okay, you guys are done, right? And I remember Dave took his guitar and smashed it through the screen, and
Wow.
yeah, our agent Andy Summers somehow got us out of having to pay for that because that would have been expensive,
Yeah, that would have been pricey.
yeah, more money than
Those were
we
the
had.
early days. You didn't have the
Yeah,
bread back then, right? Like you know,
yeah,
that would have hurt a little bit.
yeah,
Because you guys were wild when you were younger, though, man.
totally, of
You guys were
course.
wild.
It was a real rock. We were the Sex Pistols, man. I mean, it was full on. With like just anyone could have died or anything could have happened at any time. You know, full on fights, and it's like it's what it was.
Dave had to be a front man, though. He was born to be a front man.
He was, and he was, and again, Gary Holt talked about that. I remember seeing that somewhere where he said when they would go see Metallica, they would mostly go just to see Dave because he'd rave and rant and talk because he talked in between the songs, So he was like, James was the singer, but Dave was kind of the front man. You know what I mean? So
Uh,
it was an interesting dynamic, but obviously that wasn't meant to last. So yeah, I agree. And I think yet, there were times where Dave probably would have loved to have just been the guitar player. It would have been a lot more fun, a lot easier to just be the lead guitar player, and not have to sing all the time. Because when you're singing, you're tied to the mic. You've got to
yeah.
do all of that. So, but yeah, no, you're right. His personality was definitely. I knew that as soon as I met him. It was like, okay, this guy's like a David Lee Roth, like a metal version of David Lee Roth. Like he's just meant to be the front man, for sure.
It, the like it was almost like wrestling promos at times during between songs when you guys first would start. Like some of the shit he would talk. It was
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. We had a few drinks. It was an interesting night.
yeah,
So
man.
yeah,
Well, yeah, I'm glad that you came through, man. Because as I said, it's a special album. It's a historic album, one of the best and a very important album when it comes down to thrash metal history. I'm happy that you came through, man. And what's going on right now? You probably, I know, like last year or the year before when I spoke to you, you had like a ton of projects. Are you
you
taking
know,
it slowing down a
look,
little, or are you going crazy again?
it's funny. I don't have any projects. I have bands. When you start something, and I guess maybe because I was in one band for so long, but then when you do something different, it's kind of it's a new project, and it's. I mean, look, Megadeth was a project until we decided, okay, this is going to work. You know what I mean? I think everything you start is ultimately a project. Because think about when you got sent home from science class and you had to build a volcano. It was a project, right? You go home and it's a lot of work, right? And you put it together and it's like, oh fuck, the volcano works. Oh, that's fun. And that's what writing songs is like. That's what putting a band together is like. It's like science class, you know what I mean? You're building something from the ground up, and when it starts to work, and it's trial and error. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We got to tweak this, tweak that, so they I guess they all start like that. But I've ever since I was a kid, ever since I first got my first bass, by age 12, I was putting bands together, and I joined a couple bands, but for the most part, I was always the guy putting them together, and I like that. That's even Megadeth, right? I came to California, and Dave didn't have a band. He was writing some songs. He needed some soldiers at the very least, which and again, Greg, my friend Greg really, and I give him the kudos and the credit because he was such a big part of kind of the carving a path. I mean, he's a true metalhead at heart, and he really he saw a vision for Dave's songs that he was writing. And that's pretty cool because Dave was not very receptive to people having any other ideas than him. You know what I mean? So, for Dave to even be at all receptive to that, and Greg was pretty forceful. He had a way of a conviction about him, and so it was good. It was a good thing, obviously, So it was short lived. It wasn't going to last, but but back to your question. I mean, right now I'm in Gdynia, Poland. I'm looking out over the Baltic Sea right here with Russia right over there, and Denmark and Sweden to the north. And I'm just literally here. We did rehearsals for with Dieth. We're playing a festival tomorrow, a couple hours south of here, and then after that, a couple weeks, and then I'll be up with the Farewell Black Sabbath Ozzy Osbourne show up in Birmingham on July 5th.
Incredible.
Yeah, yeah, and then Dieth. We have another show in Toronto August 1st. And then after that, Chris Poland and I are I'm going to do a bass story event. I haven't done a bass story now in about 5-6 years. So we're going to do a one-off bass story show that I'm going to have Chris Poland be a part of. And then he and I are appearing at Terrificon, which is a Comic-Con event at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. So, yeah. Then then Kings of Thrash will be September and October. And then I'm doing the Alice Cooper, Rob Halford Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp in Phoenix in November. So, yeah, the year's it's got fun stuff going on, So
what's going on with man, I'm sorry, I'm having like a brain freeze. My guy from Sponge. You guys have a
the Lucid, yeah.
Yes, thank you, the Lucid.
Yeah, it's there's always an album in the works with that. We became, we wanted to do some shows. In fact, we had shows booked on the calendar, and then our guitar player Drew 48, he had a cancer scare. Fortunately, he was able to have a surgery, and it was good. It was benign. It wasn't so. Fortunately, he dodged a bullet with that. But then that pulled everything off the books, and so we kind of just became like a really famous internet band. You know what I mean? We put some records out. I think that the material's fantastic. It's fun for me. Like everything that I do is. If I was thinking about it today, even with Dieth, is like. We're actually rehearsing a couple of Entombed songs, and it's funny. Entombed was kind of like Megadeth for death metal. The music's complex. It's got a lot of intricacy to it. They had that kind of same following too. You know what I mean? Coming out of Sweden, of course, they're very popular around here. And our drummer Mihals, from Decapitated, and Hubert, our guitar player. So these guys are in the real death metal scene the way I was in church, So it's interesting for me, being a little bit older, to learn how they wrote, how they played, So that's an interesting thing. So it's interesting, that scratches an itch. Obviously, Kings of Thrash, we go out, we play Killing Is My Business. It's like in its entirety, like no problem.
And you guys are doing more now, aren't you?
Yeah, we are. Yep. Yeah. And yeah, we're gonna. It's funny when we did our tour in the UK and Europe back in October, November. November 1st was the anniversary of Euthanasia. So I said, look, let's dig a couple tunes out and throw a little nod to that. So we're going to continue that, and then we're going to definitely go back and. We have the whole "Killing Is My Business" record in our set list because we have played that.
Yeah, it's incredible. If you guys haven't seen this and they're in your city, you got to go. It's so much effing fun. First of all, too, like just hearing these old songs with like 2025, like the sound of 2025, the equipment. It's just so much power. Sounds really good.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, Kings is a great lineup, man. Fred on drums and Chaz, our singer. Chaz, you couldn't find a better singer and frontman for that. He just fundamentally, naturally gets the charisma and persona of Dave. He's a really cool, nice guy too, which makes.
Oh yeah, I've been in touch with him. Yeah, he's really cool.
He's super cool. And again, he's a big fan, so. For him, it's just all respect, and for him to do it, and that's why we started that band, was to go out and play these songs, because I had done the Chiller Theater events back in 2021, I guess it was, and it was my first couple of months I wasn't in Megadeth, and Megadeth had just gone through the area, and fans are complaining. They're like, "What the fuck? There's like the same 10 songs, and we want to hear old stuff," and they're giving me my Killing Is My Business songs to play, and that was when it hit me. I went home, I called Chris Poland, I go, dude, we got to go out and fucking play some of this early stuff, man. The fans are wanting to hear this stuff. It's just not how, the current version of Megadeth is, and it's that's just what it is. You know what I mean? So I said, look, we can go out and play this shit. It'd be fun, and we don't, we're not trying to go play stadiums. It's like just go and play it. These songs were written and played in 500-seat clubs. They sound good there, So
There were pits in there. It was fun. It was like like taking it back to the roots. The when it was yeah,
yep, yep,
it was sick. I
yep,
have to
yep,
say something too, because I ran into Violent J from ICP, and he's
yeah.
like, I need to do more metal. He said, when you talk to or see David next, I want to start a band with him, tell him to call me, email me. He was, I mean, he was
He's
like, because
fun.
I interviewed him and I mentioned about when I seen him maybe like 2 weeks after I interviewed you on the tour bus. And he
Right.
was like, bro, it's a dream of mine to be in a band. He's like a
Yeah.
dream.
No, he's
Yeah.
cool, man. Well, Drew got him in. Well, actually, it was Vinny because they're both Michigan guys. So Vinny lives in Michigan. Vin Dombrowski from Sponge and the Lucid, right? So that's how that happened. So they're buddies, and so yeah, and with the Lucid, that is that band of just weird, odd bits of people that you wouldn't think would fit together, and yet they do. I mean, you get the Bang Tango guitar player with the Lucid singer, the Fear Factory drummer, and the bass from Megadeth. It's like, the fuck is that going to sound like? And it doesn't sound like any of those bands. That I think is probably the coolest thing about that group is we really found our own sound, and then when you add Violent J in there for a couple of guest
Yeah.
spots,
That was the one
it's
with
yeah,
that. It was almost like a sample you guys did. I mean, you replayed it. I don't mean to interrupt you, pardon me, but didn't you guys do like the Faith No More
yeah.
kind of vibe?
Yeah. Tell you what, that
Yeah,
was fun, because Mike Heller, our drummer, is a fantastic producer, and so working with him is great. He's a killer drummer, and so to play to really deep dive. And I love Billy Gould's bass part, man. He is such a great bass player. With Faith No More, especially that one record that was really popular that had that song on it in particular. That was a real that record turned some heads and really made an impact. Faith No More they were the right band at the right time in the musical landscape, because Jim had this metal sound to his guitar playing. Billy was this funk kind of thing, because funk metal was kind of a deal there for a minute, and then Mike Patton, of course, was just such a great singer and stuff. So they were they were kind of a cool band of misfits, you know what I mean? And yet they too, when they all came together, they had this really captivating sound, so yeah, so it was fun to record that, because I really wanted to play it exactly like Billy did, as best I could, because I'm
nah,
such a fan of
definitely.
his bass playing, yeah, I love it. It's part
Got
of it.
such a groove and bounce to it, and it's
Yeah,
heavy.
him
It's
and
heavy.
Mike Gordon, man, what a rhythm section.
Yeah. So you were mentioning about Ozzy, right? Ozzy's last show is around the corner. Do
Yeah.
you have a fond memory you'd like to share with the people before we go, just to celebrate
Yeah.
Ozzy's career?
When we did the Megadeth Black Sabbath tour in 2014 in South America, me and Ozzy and Billy Morrison, he was down there, Billy was down there as well, and that's when I got to know Billy. And so the three of us would hang out, and on show days they invited me over to their camp, and it was fun. It was cool. There was a lot of conversations about music and clean living. We're kind of the clean living guys. You know what I mean? So it's Ozzy was he's very sharp, man. He's very smart. He's obviously got a lot of experience, and he was just like hanging out with like a cool music guy. That to me was, I think, the thing that I really took away from that, and he was like all of us, no matter how famous you are and all that kind of stuff. It's like you realize that we're all just musicians, and sometimes when you just hang out with people like that, it sort of demystifies it, and then you realize it's like, man, we're all like I've said many times, we're all in the same band. You know what I mean? Like we're all just music buddies, and so it was just cool to Metallica did that when we did the Big Four. Before we played a note together the night before the first show in Warsaw, we had a dinner. They set up a dinner with all the bands, no representatives, no managers, no security guards, just the four bands get together, break bread, have dinner, go around the tables, hang out. Hey, how's the kids? How's the wife? How's what kind of car you got in the garage? What have you been up to? Haven't seen you in a few years. You know what I mean? Just have those conversations. And that was, and like I think Lars said, he goes, what happens is usually, you'd start doing shows, you're together on a tour, a bunch of dates, and then finally at the end, you go, you finally take the group picture, you come in and you have a few minutes, and you go, these guys were so cool. Why didn't we hang out the whole tour? So I thought that was great wisdom on their part to let's have that conversation first before we even play a note together. And let's be brothers first, and then we'll play the show tomorrow. And so I felt like Billy Morrison inviting me over there to hang with him and Ozzy. He did that. I felt like there was like a brotherhood. And I already knew Geezer, and so it was great. And then I'd see Geezer and Tony in the hall, and it would be like, hey, what's going on? And so I felt like I got included into their family. And because we were the clean living brothers, you know what I mean? We weren't the troublemakers, you know what I mean? So it's like, it was good, you're on the right side of that, so, so.
Maybe it's a bassist thing. The bassist people, they tend to stay out of the trouble, makes you
Yeah, well,
feel
and
better.
what was nice too is that then Billy Morrison, I got, during COVID, I did that Ellefson No Cover record. And so I hit up Al Jorgensen's camp. I wanted Al to participate. He agreed to sing on Auf Wiedersehen because he's friends with the Cheap Trick guys from the Chicago days. So he sang on Auf Wiedersehen, and it was look. Al will throw one to you. You throw one to him, right? So we're at Al's house there in L.A. at his studio, and we're shooting the Auf Wiedersehen video and everything, which was super cool. And then, within the year, maybe a year later, I got the call to go out and write and record with Al for that Moral Hygiene record. So, and I walk in the studio and Billy Morrison's there. I'm like, hey, fuck, I haven't seen you in a couple of years, and he is a fantastic guitar player. I mean, I just knew him as a brother on the road, and then guitars in hand. Was like, man, this guy's like musically lights are on. This guy's really engaged, and so we wrote a song, and it was his idea. We were standing out by the pool after we wrote. It was interesting because Al had a Pro Tools guy in there, and he would just turn on and hit record, and everything we wrote, we were just writing riffs. He captured all of it, and Al was sitting in the room, just kind of kicking back, grooving, going, yeah, that's cool, I like that. And he just kind of left us alone to just write, and his guitar player Caesar was there as well. And then we went out by the pool and we're hanging out, and that's when Billy Morrison said to Al, he goes, we should really do, is it Seek and Destroy, the Iggy Pop song? Am I saying that? Is that the right? I remember it wasn't exactly like the Metallica one, but and so we ended up covering that. We ended up covering that song, and Billy put the whole track together. He put the whole groove together. Then he sent it to me, and I played bass on it out in Arizona. So yeah, it was great to, have a collaboration with him. So it's funny how doors open to different shit. So very cool.
Yeah, that's one thing I respect and I love about what you do, man. Because your career, you've not been scared to try new thing, experiment, and just branch out and just do what you love and play music. It's really cool that you do all of that.
Yeah.
Friday the 13th, we're gonna end it like this because it's Friday the 13th, right? So let's say they wanted to pick a song off of "Killing Is My Business" for the movie. What song would you want to be in that movie? A new Friday the 13th.
A new Friday the 13th?
If they were
Which
doing a
song?
new Friday the 13th, which song off this album? Since we're celebrating 40 years.
Well, look, I think for one of the scary, haunting pieces, you'd have to start with Last Rites, right? Because
Yeah,
just that piano intro sets up a good killing scene pretty well, right? Some
yeah,
scary's got to
definitely.
happen, right?
Yeah, that
And
or the cross,
yeah,
that's a band too. The way that
yeah,
bass comes in,
Looking on the
that
Cross
shit is like
sure
crazy.
would be in there, and I think also probably, um, you could probably even put, you could clip a little piece of Skull Beneath the Skin in there somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, like the beginning sounds very haunting, like something very bad and dangerous is going to happen next.
Oh
So
yeah, 100%.
and,
It was an eerie effing album. It had some eerie ass. It was eerie as hell. Like looking down the cross was very eerie too. I
it
thought
was,
that
yeah,
sounded
yeah,
pretty.
yeah. Looking at it, because a lot of it's all this. And look, Sabbath kind of started it, right? Black Sabbath. They did these sort of right, this diminished, right? That's like a spooky. It's like a Boris Karloff, right?
Super spooky.
That yeah, it's this diminished kind of triad thing, and harmonic minor are some of the kind of formal music talk there, but you start using those, and that's what we did, and that's what made it not. Whereas Maiden um, was minor keys, mostly pentatonic kind of stuff. When you take a pentatonic and you flat like the fifth, then it becomes that diminished thing. And I mean, a perfect example, probably the best example of that diminished thing, is that beginning of Dave's solo in Mechanics. That do 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 do. That's all. I don't have a guitar here in the room, but it's all. That is a classic. Just that's all diminished stuff, right? And that sound, and that's why, like, the Skull Beneath the Skin, right? That intro, it's all these chromatic that F E right, those movements. Again, it goes back to this kind of neoclassical, um, diminished. They called it the devil's tritone. Diminished is it's like a one flat five octave, right? So they called it the devil's tritone, and people
The
would
shape
actually,
or something like that. It's
yeah,
like
people
that.
would actually, you could be executed for playing it back in a
Oh
different day,
shit.
right? Yeah, back in the days of the witches and stuff, right? So
Yeah.
and Paganini was another guy that was the violinist Paganini. He was like the Yngwie of his day, on violin, and so these were the inspirations of a lot of those songs, the musical inspiration for those
Yeah, I
songs.
mean, it's once again. I'm glad that you came through. I wanted to celebrate. This is such a historic album. It had to be talked about today, or
Yeah,
yesterday, or today. It has to be.
yeah,
So I appreciate you being here, and man, and
yeah,
just besides it being so eerie, it's also got one of the most gangsta effing songs ever. We talked about that last time. That the actual title track, like a
yeah,
hitman going to take someone out, like that, like that's so gangster right there. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's pretty. That, and same with "Love to Death," right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And especially that last line. The protagonist dies, goes to hell, thinking that his girlfriend's going to be puritanical, and then oh, what do I see? You're down here, you're down here in hell with me. You know what I mean? So it just that funny. They always called it tongue in cheek, which
Yes.
I guess it is, but I guess that's the literary term for it. But to me, there were always these you know, kind of flip the script kind of lyric writing where, you don't know where the story's going. It's suspenseful, very cinematic, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden at the end, the flip script, like you said, killing is my business. My next shot is you, so it's, that and Love to Death are two like that, where you don't expect that to be the ending of the story. They're kind of they're funny, you know.
Yeah, no, it's just as I said, it aged well, and I love listening to it as I've gotten older because I would listen to it when I was so young. I didn't know half the stuff I didn't really get like I do as I got older, you know. So it grew with me. Excuse me, like I'm like, oh, that's what that shit means, you know. I was saying, a great album though, man. Congrats, 40 years, man.
Yeah, brother,
We
thank you.
hopefully we can see you guys together again. I miss the two of you guys together.
Yeah, I know. Look, I miss Dave. I miss Dave too. Look, some of my favorite, some of the best stories of my life begin with. Then there was the time me and Dave fill in the blank. You know what I mean? Because we lived such a, interesting life, together. It was just, with that band. So, we haven't talked in a few years, but, I miss the guy, of course. We had a lot of fun. And look, anytime we've ever had these gaps like this, as soon as we get back together, we just, it's like we just were hanging out yesterday, So, I
We
mean,
got to get these guys back together. If you're watching this, put in the comments. We need Dave and David back together. Let's put it into existence. We need
there
to
you
see
go.
you two back on stage, man.
There
We're
you
going to
go,
put
brother.
all the information in the description box below. Make sure to follow everything he's doing. He's going to be in a city near you. It's a matter of time, maybe even tomorrow. So go check it out. And thank you, as always, bro.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to say before we go? Or we're
No,
going to
that's
wrap.
it, man. I was just digging on your scary monster behind you there, dude.
Yeah, yeah, man.
So
We got
yeah,
him right there. That's Frankie, man. That's Frankie.
nice.
We named him
What's
Frankie
up,
right there. And I got some artwork here. These are from Charlie Bonanta. He did those.
Oh yeah, yeah. Very
Yeah, man. Oh yeah, you seen Metallica? Because I just seen Charlie like a week and a half ago. You caught the Metallica show, the new one, right? The new tour.
I did. Yep. I saw him in Munich last year, and then it was on my birthday. Ironically, it's funny because Drew's filming a new movie, and he had me do a. You'll like it. It's a gangster part, right? So it's.
Hey.
I truly had to act because it's not my normal character, so it was fun. So Drew's great with this. Drew brings me into all this stuff, and he's really into. He and his girlfriend Hannah are really, they're big movie buffs, and she's an actress and a director as well. So they've been making a lot of movies and stuff. So you were asking about the Lucid. That's one of the, he's been writing some Lucid stuff with Vin, but also making some movies. So while I was back in Detroit, it was literally my birthday, my 59th birthday back in what was that 23? Yeah, 2023. So I went over and yeah, they were. It was great, man. It was super fun weekend hanging out with those guys.
Yeah, I seen it on your Instagram. I was like, oh, that's. I think you had a picture with Lars or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. We basically hung out and closed the venue down. You know what I mean? So it's and he's another guy, just like the old days. It's like no, when we were young and rowdy, and he'd come to our shows, and we'd all get fucking hammered and hang out in trash hotel and all that stuff. So you know what I mean? It's just it's. I mean, we don't do that anymore, but it's fun, And even the other day I saw Gary Holt. I went and saw Exit. I saw him twice. I saw him in Phoenix, and then they were playing a couple nights ago in Frankfurt as I was passing through on my way here to Poland, and so popped in to see. And it's so great seeing that show twice, literally in the last month, that show, and it was great to see them. They play so good. Exodus sounds so good. I mean, they've always been a great band, but they were always kind of fun and rowdy, and now they're real tight. The show sounds expensive, is how I put it. Like which means it's audio at its best. It looks great. Jack's a great. Yeah, it's great, man. So Gary's just, I mean, look, the if most of us, that which didn't kill us only got us sobered up and cleaned up, and so the Exodus guys are totally on point, and so yeah, and that's why again, Bonded by Blood, 40th anniversary, Killing's My Business, 40th anniversary. Again, this is the house that built the House of Combat.
Yeah, it's Combat versus Megaforce Records, basically in the beginning. That's what it was.
Pretty much. It's funny when I saw that Revolver magazine piece and they went down because that, Nuclear Assault, Game Over. I love that record, man. That's so fucking good. And quite honestly, like Kings of Thrash, we just put out that song Lockdown, and
Oh
that's
yeah,
what I
yeah.
said
You
to
did.
Chad.
Excuse me. We got to promote that too.
Yeah, I said that because Jeff, we'd written some songs. And the thing with writing with a singer is to write in their range and something that's them. And Jeff said, he goes, look, why don't we just write stuff around Chaz's voice? I said, yeah, that's a good idea. So I said to Chaz, I said, dude, go write us a couple tunes. You are the fucking heart of thrash metal. You really get it. You understand it. And I said, let's see what you bring to the table as far as a writer. So far you've basically been singing Megadeth songs. So he brought a couple songs, and I liked Lockdown. I thought it was cool. The lyric, I think people kind of miss the lyric. It's like, what's going on? I'm not in America today, but what's in America right now? I mean, fuck. I mean, the lockdown, he even said, he goes, oh my God, this lyric is like prophetic. I said, that's the hallmark of a great fucking metal song, and you write something like, we wrote Holy Wars. Who knew, what all this shit that goes.
No, there's no way you didn't know that was a banger when you recorded that. You guys were really
Lockdown's the same thing, you know what I mean? And it's like, look, just what's going on, in LA.
Holy Wars is incredible. Holy Wars is arguably one of the greatest metal songs ever, like ever.
Well, and I think the thing of it is, when you write songs like that, topics are so universal. They're just timeless, because you're writing songs about people and the behavior of people, and while the times may change, people never do. You know what I mean? It's like these things just keep coming back around, and I think that's what's so cool about metal, is we write about topics like that can be daunting and scary, but it's just the behavior of human beings. You know what I mean? Yeah. So so it's
history repeats itself. That's why Holy Wars is still relevant. Sadly, it's crazy. I mean, it's relevant right now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I mean, it's great. This world is crazy, man. You know that. So, well, I don't want to keep any more of your time, man. I appreciate you so much, man. Like always. Once again, follow everything that David is doing, and thank you, brother. We out of here, man.
Okay, buddy. Yo, rock and roll, buddy.
Yeah, have a good one, bro. Thanks for your time.
Bye. Bye.